Hi there, I am Chris from Airwindows, and if I look a little spent, it's because I gotta be doing this in the wee hours of the late at night because a massive snowstorm is going to come and obliterate Vermont for me. So I gotta post this now in case I lose electricity and internet and all of the things. So let's try to quickly get this done. Here I have a new plugin called PowerSag2. And the reason I'm doing this is because of a couple of things. I was asked for a change in PowerSag, which I've delivered. Namely, this inverse wet setting is something that will let you have the PowerSag behavior boosting rather than cutting in dynamic range. That's the way that works out. And I've also been doing some work. I was just over in Massachusetts visiting my brother, who helped me put together a lot of coding stuff, the one that's the better programmer than me. And we have other ideas in mind. We're going to be putting together some game ideas and things. But I learned something from him, which was some of the stuff that I used to do for optimizations on plugins don't actually work the way I thought. In particular, modern stuff, modern computers are more capable of doing a bunch of calculations in an algorithm rather than keeping a big pile of memory so that it can look up the memory quickly. So PowerSag uses a thing called the delay buffer, where it's keeping a sort of average of what's inside the buffer and averaging it together and then subtracting or adding it based on what the inverse wet thing does. And I'd been running a double buffer in attempts to calculate it all quicker. So what this one does is I've rearranged it so that it'll work better for modern CPUs, and that lets me get double the delay time that it previously had. So I've also changed the range a little bit. And here, let's just start playing with it and hear what it sounds like. This is a track. And if I start fooling with PowerSag, we can get the power starve effect. This is pretty high frequency, so you can make it sort of real bright and shiny by doing this. The inverse goes like this. This is what it sounds like that you're subtracting. So that's kind of a weird gatey, distorty thing. And if you use it to boost what you've got, it'll get a kind of meaty additional weight to it, whereas full wet is subtracting it. But here's also what you can do. Range is exaggerating things very aggressively. So it goes from super short, which is basically nothing, to these strong effects, much like the previous PowerSag, all the way to wacky compressy effects. And you can hear that that's doing a sort of wild kind of automatic gain control-y thing. And of course, if we use the inverse, we have another wild effect going on. And you can always use it in more subtle ways. But you can see that we're only in the very beginnings of the range control. This is around halfway in. So this will be also useful for if you have really high sample rates, because it's running the same delay buffer either way. you can extend it to such a long window of calculation that it's got just such a giant effect you don't even register anything happening at all. If you were doing like 96 or 192K, this is going to be more in this kind of range. And again, most of the effect is going to be in here, although we're getting an interesting kind of compressy squish behavior out of that. And full dry, full wet, and then the weird entirely inverted behavior that's kind of peaky, and then we can also get an even uglier sound by speeding it up until we're just barely getting an effect. And what this translates to in the normal behavior is a brightness added sound, where it's just squishing some of the extreme effects on it and suppressing this type of sound. We'll go back to the meat of the music again a little bit. And again, what PowerSag does is it gathers together audio in the kind of way where if you had an analog circuit and its power supply was crapping out and running out of juice, this is the kind of stuff that would be pushing too hard, would be dragging the power supply into an area of weakness. And this is the stuff that would be left over. Then, this is what the circuit would sound like with this sort of power supply starvation, and the full dry in the middle here has more sort of girth and power to it. And then you start shrinking it by bringing this in so that you can hear what it would sound like with the circuit running out of juice, or even seriously running out of juice at full crank. And then this is what is being removed. So that is PowerSag2. It should be running more efficiently than PowerSag1. It's got the invert in it, which the PowerSag1 didn't have. And it is as free as all of my other plugins. Meaning, if this is one that you would be like, I am going to go out and buy this for $50 if you were selling it for $50, and you can afford to do so, then by all means, please throw more money in the direction of my Patreon, because that's why I'm still here doing this. That is the reason why, like 3 years later, there is such a thing as PowerSag2, and I didn't have to give up and go get a job digging ditches, which I would be very bad at because I'm over 50 years old, and as burly as I might be, I'm not sure I'm cut out for that kind of thing. So, honestly, I'm happier working full-time on this kind of stuff, although granted, because I'm working in the field of the internet, full-time for the internet is many more hours than you would have to spend digging ditches or whatever. There's no off switch on the internet. Basically, if you drop out of sight for just a minute, then it's like, oh, you're gone, never mind. So I kind of have to keep moving constantly. Although I did rest up a little bit this last Thursday and Friday, which was Thanksgiving. So I celebrated Thanksgiving by staying home, doing nothing, making a box of stuffing and eating that, and seeing nobody. and not working. It was amazing. But back into the code mines with some cool ideas that I'm working on, and refreshed from my slight departure. And I do have all kinds of cool ideas. Like, I'm working on getting a analog mixing rig set up that I can then measure and compare the code to, so I can come out with, say, a new version of console that is being compared directly to the best analog rig I can get within reason. Because I ain't going out and buying some like giant Neve console. I'll just get as close as I can to that with modern day available stuff. But there's also other code things. Me and my brother are going to be fooling around and trying to get some purchase on VST GUI for VST2s, because that's the kind of thing he finds very easy to do. And I don't, so he's going to try to sort of walk me through it so I can learn how to be better at figuring out stuff like that. And we're just going to keep things moving and hopefully head into a interesting and rewarding 2020 for everybody. I hope you have a cool holiday season, whether it is this very chilled and disengaged holiday season like I just had, or whether it's a really complicated, busy holiday season mingling with all kinds of people, or whatever it is that you need to do. And I need to go and post this plugin now after having demonstrated it as best as I could. So let's put it away, and I will talk to you later. And if I don't show up on Monday, it's because I'm completely covered in snow and my internet is broken. But I live in Vermont. We're pretty good at snow, so my internet's probably not going to be broken. Those of you who tune into the live stream, I'll see you Monday. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.